Okay, bear with me for just a second here. I'm going to take us a little bit back in time. Imagine, if you will, that it is the 1960s. A professor of physics at the University of California, Berkeley. During World War II, this individual had a major role in the ending of that war. He was credited with a lot of things. He was credited mainly, from what history would take a look at him as an individual that created a device that was so influential that it wasn't until the testing of the effect of this device, which was later known as the Trinity test, in the desert sands of New Mexico, after which the successful test of this device allowed its creator to take a look at the device that he had created and realize the ramifications of what he had just done. He is being quoted as saying, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The device that he had created, the individual that he created, was Robert Oppenheimer. And the device that he had tested in the Trinity test in the desert sands of New Mexico was the atomic bomb. Now, the atomic bomb obviously launched us into the atomic age. It was a moment in time, one of those few transitional moments of time where things will never be the same, and that's happened throughout the history of man. You have a lot of things, from the invention of fire to the invention and the implementation of the atomic bomb, to the invention and the implementation of the internet, call it what you will. But throughout history, you take a look at the ramifications of something and the effect that something has had on history, and you take a look back and say, this point in time in history was kind of when it started, and we didn't necessarily realize at the time that that was the turning point, that that was the moment, that was where it kind of started. I take a look back in history for this storied franchise, the last 80 years of this storied franchise, and I ask myself, when did this start? When did this take place? What moment in time can I attribute the effects of a particular moment in time? I don't really know the answer to that, to tell you the truth. I think that there's always an obvious answer that comes to my mind when I think back on that moment, or I think back on a particular moment. There is one moment that comes to mind. There is an event where I can take a series of I can take a look at what's happened over the course of a period of time and say to myself, this is kind of the origin. This is kind of when it started. And I've said this before. I've kind of meant it. I kind of mentioned it and hinted towards this in the past. A particular moment in Redskin history where all of a sudden things took a massive downturn. More on that later. Taking a look at some of the events that have taken place recently. To recap on exactly what has been going on with me, I have remained willfully silent. I have not mentioned anything on social media, on Facebook, nor on Twitter, about some of the rumors and conjecture that has come out on the news wire as far as the NFL is concerned. on some of the issues that have been pressing the Washington Redskins because, frankly, the microscope has been on this organization ever since it was found out that Scott McGloin was not at the scouting combine. And that information was not leaked. That's one thing that I want to make perfectly clear. Nobody leaked that information. It's kind of easy to tell if a general manager of a football team is present at a scouting combine or not. It's very, very obvious. So I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying things or seeing reports about information that was leaked about Scott McGloin not being at the scouting combine. That was not leaked. That was just informative. That was informative reporting. A particular individual notices that Scott McGloin's not in the house and says, "Hey, what the hell? The dude's not here." Haven't seen anybody. You know, I'm sitting at a spot, and I've been at this I've been in this establishment for several hours today, and I've seen them all, but I haven't seen Scott. He's not here. If he was here, he would be here. And I've been here for the last 8 hours, and I have not seen him. That's not leaking crap. So we can put that to rest. It was not leaked. It was made very abundantly obvious. That was the start. I decided to kind of not say anything about that either. I've been busy the last couple of days especially. You see, I was just recently in Las Vegas, and I was there for a tournament. And I was there with some family members and some friends having a wonderful time. Wonderful, wonderful time. One of my better experiences in Vegas. Had nothing to do with gambling. Had nothing to do with the Las Vegas Strip at all. In fact, I was several miles from the Las Vegas Strip, and I'm sitting down in a casino buffet, and I've got my plate stacked to the brim with food, and I'm looking happy and I'm feeling happy. And as I'm walking to my table and putting my food down, I happen to look up at the myriad of television screens that are going at that particular time. And of course, it's on ESPN or NFL Network channel, where it's got the ticker tape at the bottom giving you all the updated highlights. And then you've got the little marquee on the side that tells you what subjects are going to be talking about next. And here I am getting ready to dig into a huge plate of a massive all-you-can-eat prime rib. And I see the news. Washington Redskins working on a trade deal with the Dallas Cowboys for Tony Romo. And I lost my damn appetite. I couldn't believe it. That was the sign at first that, whoa, something has seriously derailed. What's going on in Ashburn? What's going on? I had texted Naysayer at this particular time, and he and I were going back and forth, as usual, with our shenanigans and trying to make sense of what's going on with this organization at that particular time. And I decided at that point, of course, there's all kinds of rumor and conjecture about what's going on with Scott McGloin. And I said to myself then, you know what? I'm not going to say anything about it yet because I don't know exactly what's going on. My first initial reaction is to have an emotional reaction, and I want to get on video and just film it for you individuals. But then I said, you know what? I don't want to be emotional about this because at the very end of the day, we don't know what's going on with Scott. I'm in the airport at Las Vegas on my way back, and I'm hearing all these different reports about how there may be the possibility that he's going down the road of alcoholism and he's relapsed, and the organization might be obligated, you know, by certain bylaws to make comments about anything, and that's the reason why we are choosing to remain mum. And I say to myself, well, it's a good thing I didn't put out an emotional video. Because if that's the case, well, then obviously I don't want to shirk the notion of an individual and his substance abuse issues. That would not be fair. But then again, nothing was official yet. And how poignant that nothing was official. How poignant that the team did not get out in front of this, because this is what this organization does. This is very, very Tony Wiley. This is very, very Bruce Allen. This is very, very Dan Snyder. We've done this over and over and over in the past. And you know what? Danny Rouhier is right. When we want to oust somebody, this is how the Redskins do it. In the meantime, Pierre Garçon signs a very lucrative deal with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I was not shocked that he signed the deal that he did. I don't think that there would have been any way that I would have signed that deal. I wouldn't have penned Pierre Garçon with that kind of... No. Not for a dude that's beyond the age of 30. I don't see it happening with the question marks that we now have on offense. I wouldn't do it. I'm sorry. I respect Pierre too much. I respect this organization too much. And the only way that I think you could keep Pierre here is if you signed him to a deal like that or larger. If you're going to suck this year and if your quarterback's not going to be here beyond 1 year, you're going to pay me to go through the sludge and the sewer with this football organization, because I'm not doing it for a free buck. I'm not doing it for free. I'm not doing it for a low cap hit. You're going to pay me. So I don't blame him for taking off to San Francisco, and I thank Pierre Garçon for his service as a Washington Redskin, and I feel sorry for all of the crap that he's had to put up with while being in this organization, because God knows he's put up with enough crap being in this organization. And then Deshaun Jackson ends up pretty much penning a deal for Tampa Bay. And you say to yourself, we kind of saw this coming, the possibility of our two best wide receivers not even being with the team this year, and it's looking like that's not going to happen. We don't have Pierre Garçon or Deshaun Jackson on this football team anymore. And then you start hearing rumors about Kirk Cousins wanting to demand a trade. He hasn't signed his franchise tag deal yet. The one thing he said he was going to do during Media Row at the Super Bowl, he was more than happy to sign a tenure. What happened between the Super Bowl Media Row and now? Something tells me that at the end of last season, that was when this stuff started going down. This timeline's making too much sense to me. That's when I think this whole thing with Scott McCloughan and Bruce Allen went down. Because that's what I think is at the crux of everything that's going on here. That is what Burgundy Fly Guy is racking his brain over, thinking to himself, you know what? That is probably what's going on. The timing of this is just too poignant. But the fly in the ointment for me, the fly in the ointment, the part that I do not understand, the part that I don't get, the part that's throwing me in flux, is that if your general manager and your president are going at it head to head, and it looks like your general manager is going to lose that fight and is probably not going to be with you, and he has been silenced, he can no longer speak. He cannot speak at any of the engagements in the off season, which is kind of what a general manager is supposed to do. And he's not even appearing at the scouting combine. He's not even there. Who's running the ship as far as player personnel is concerned? Why would Jay Gruden sign an extension? I don't get that. Why would you sign an extension as a head coach? To get paid? Well, Jay Gruden doesn't strike me as a head coach that's in this job for the money. Jay Gruden strikes me as an individual that wants to put together a successful football team and win and go on and win a Super Bowl just like his brother. His brother wasn't in it for the money. His brother had morals and principles, and he was a hard-assed individual to get along with, and he wasn't the greatest coach to get along with, from my understanding, even when he was a coach of the Oakland Raiders. But my God, the guy got it done, and the guy won. Almost a little bit like his younger brother. But why would Jay Gruden sign an extension when the ship is burning? That's like accepting an extension on your captain's contract when your ship is going down. After the Titanic's already hit, the submerged iceberg, and you're already taking on water and you know you're not going to make it out. Sure, you want me to stick around until everybody's off the boat? All right. Sure, no problem. I realize that's what a captain does, but you give me the opportunity of getting out of here while the ship is sinking. Why sign an extension? Unless there's some sort of deal going on that we don't know about. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot going on right now that we don't know about. And that's the scary part. That should petrify you. What's going on right now and what's out is petrifying me. Absolutely petrifying me. And this is not even half of it. I'm willing to bet it's not even the half of it. Kirk Cousins asks Bruce Allen for a trade. Demands a trade. Say, hey, I want to get traded. And Bruce Allen's comment is, don't get your hopes up. There's so many points in the history of this organization you can drive flags into the ground and say this is a potential starting point. There's so many. 2012 being one of them, the drafting of Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins. You started to see that faction begin with Mike Shanahan trying to buck upper management, signing a kid that he thought was good, wanted to get a good player in here. And I don't necessarily know if I buy the notion that Mike Shanahan was trying to prove a point then that Griffin wasn't going to make it in the NFL and he was going to prove that his guy was. I don't buy that. I just think that Kirk Cousins was really high on Shanahan's draft board, and he wasn't going to pass up the opportunity for picking up a really, really good football player in the 4th round. It just so happens that this kid's work ethic, that this kid's ability has been able to shine, and it's making Shanahan look like a genius. As well, it probably should. The guy's got Super Bowl rings to prove it. But it was at that moment upper management was so convinced that Robert Griffin III could play. Every single move we've made in upper-level management has been towards the guise of the idea of Robert Griffin III. And you've got individuals who have a pedigree that is championship material that tell you he can't play. And what do? We don't take the advice of these individuals. We let them go, we dismiss them, and we bring individuals in that's going to help our narrative. Robert Griffin III must be starting quarterback for this football franchise. Shanahan had to go. Shanahan told him, hey, this kid can't play. If he wants to be a pocket passing quarterback, he can't play. He's not a pocket passing quarterback. He can't do it at this league. I've tried to coach this kid up. He can't do it. You got to give me somebody who can. I'm not going to sink my career into an individual that can't be a pocket passing quarterback. We've got to start Kirk. Well, Mike, you're out. Sorry about your luck. You're out. We're going to bring in a team of lawyers, and for the period of 48 hours, no sleep, no rest, no food, no bathroom breaks, we're going to scour over your contract and try to find a way out of it. Because that's what happened. These are the people that are sitting at the upper management level positions of your franchise, ladies and gentlemen. These are the people that are sitting at the top running your team. Why are we so loyal? Kirk Cousins proves he can play. Kirk Cousins proves that he can come in here and get it done. And in a prove-it deal, we signed him to a franchise tag last year, which he willfully signs. But now it's just starting to come out. It just got leaked today by anonymous sources that the agent for Kirk Cousins had an offer on the table of February of last year, all the way up until the end of free agency, for a $19 million a year deal. It was on the table and sat on the table for months. This was not revealed to us. This is the first time I've heard of this. And I realized last year, I told you guys, I said, look, I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of signing Kirk Cousins to a franchise deal. I do feel that maybe he's got to have another year to prove himself. But that was like a $22 million franchise tag deal that we were giving this kid at that particular time, and now I find out his agent's like, hey, here's 19. 19 plus incentives. It's on the table. Here you go. We'd be halfway done with that contract by now. Can't let that Robert Griffin the third crap go. We cannot prove Mike Shanahan right. We cannot prove that Robert can't play. Robert, by the way, just got released by the Browns. The Browns said, oh, God, please go. Robert Griffin III was a Daniel Snyder, Bruce Allen selection. They hammered hard. They hammered home very, very hard the notion to bring him in here. That was the last massive quarterback decision that we had made. Kirk Cousins was a fourth-round draft selection, a kid that wasn't supposed to do as well as he did, but he did. He did really, really well for us. Gave us 2 winning seasons. Took us to the playoffs one of those seasons. And we're screwing it up. It's pretty much screwed, ladies and gentlemen. It is pretty much screwed. The franchise quarterback that could be this team's quarterback behind Jay Gruden and a comfortable offense and a comfortable coach is gone. Why would you want to shower that with money and security? Why would you want to let that grow? Why would you want to water it and let it germinate and grow and become something beautiful when you can just rip it out of the ground and throw it over in your neighbor's yard and let him plant it? I mean, doesn't that make sense to you? It makes sense to me, because I've been a fan of this organization for 30 years. Of course it makes sense to me. This is what we do here. We don't let anything good grow. We rip it up and we throw it out. We're really good at doing that. This Scott McCloughan situation, I don't know what to say about the Scott McCloughan situation, people. I don't know what to say. What do you say to this? As soon as it was announced, and it was announced probably 2 hours ago, that the Washington Redskins have fired general manager Scott McCloughan 2 years into a 4-year contract. And reports are immediately followed up by an anonymous source, a official who is claiming anonymity, is saying that it is due to a relapse of alcohol abuse. That this has been going on for, 18 months, that it's been a living hell. He's shown up several times to the park drunk. Let's not refute the track record of Scott McCloughan. I'm not excusing him completely in this whole ordeal. Scott McCloughan has a track record of having alcohol issues, and I'm sorry if I'm getting into personal information when it comes to Scott McCloughan and making comments on a situation that I know nothing about, has nothing to do with me or affects me. That's just the way the internet is nowadays. You're just going to have to get over it. But Scott McCloughan does have a track record of having alcohol issues. He had alcohol issues that allowed him to get released by Seattle and San Francisco, two winning organizations that he had helped build that ended up realizing they couldn't deal with it anymore, and they had to let him go. That's his track record. Is it inconceivable of me to assume that Scott McCloughan is back on the sauce and is unable to control his inhibitions where alcoholism is concerned? I would have to say no. If the track record speaks for itself, there is a very real possibility. However, Scott McCloughan did own up to his past, and he did he was not a subject that he backed away from. It was a subject that he broached very, very openly and was willing to answer any and all questions regarding that issue, that very, very personal issue. And I'm glad that he did, because it was kind of a situation where he felt like the fans needed to know what it was that they were dealing with. The organization needed to know what it was dealing with. Do I think that Scott McCloughan is relapsing into an alcohol-fueled tirade right now as general manager of the Washington Redskins? I don't know, and I don't care. I don't know, and I don't care. And I'll tell you why I don't care. I'll tell you why I don't care. I don't care because I know who his bosses are. And his bosses would drive me to drink. His bosses would drive me to alcoholism. His bosses would drive me to a history of substance abuse. Because if I had to work under that regime, I'm on the sauce. If I've got to work under that son of a bitch, double checking every single goddamn move that I make, pour me a drink. If I can't make a single free agency signing without somebody sitting there checking every single thing it is that I do and questioning every single thing it is that I say and every single evaluation, and every time I go out and try to build a rapport with players, I end up getting reprimanded for it, I'm sorry, but pass me the sauce. Pass me a drink. In fact, put a shot behind it with a chaser too, if you will, because this is BS. Yes, I got a problem with alcoholism. Well, hell, I know what I'm going to when I can't do my job at work. It's called micromanagement. Does anybody else out there know about the success rate of micromanagement? Or these morons in Ashburn actually think that that method works? I don't know how it is that they run their home. I don't know how it is they run their business outside of Ashburn. But for some reason in Ashburn, micromanagement seems to be the management tool of success. Brings up an interesting point. When we hired Scott McGloin, it was made very, very poignantly clear to the individuals in that press conference and to the rest of the world that Scott McGloin had full autonomy over the roster and the organization as far as personnel was concerned. That was not true. That ended up not being true. In fact, it was being said for several months now by Mike Wise and Mike Jones that he hasn't had that kind of power in a long time. You know what that means? That means that Bruce Allen is a stone-faced liar. A stone-faced liar. You are a backstabbing son of a bitch liar. I don't believe anything that comes out of Bruce Allen's mouth at all anymore, ever. You've already burned that bridge with me, pal. I don't give a damn how cool your haircut looks. I don't care how closely you shaved this morning or how poignant your points are with your radio-like voice. You son of a bitch, you can go screw yourself. You've burned the last bridge with me. You lied to this group, you lied to us as fans, and now you come out on a smear campaign on an individual who's brought more talent evaluation to this organization in 20 years. And you come right out and lie to everybody. I'm willing to believe that these allegations of Scott McGloin's drinking and showing up drunk are also lies and fiascos. I think it's a smear campaign. I find it interesting that this condition of anonymity and this mysterious source that is on the personnel, or no, this team official, Bruce Allen, has come out under the condition of anonymity and said that he's been abusing alcohol for months. Mike Jones on the Washington Post tweets, jealousy at the top. They were going to use the excuse to can him for alcohol, and it's been in the works. Grant Paulson wants to know if he had an alcoholism problem, why is it that he was never offered help? Great question. If you knew he had a history of it, and if you suspect him of relapsing, wouldn't there be steps that you would take? Wouldn't there be something you want to do to try to help out an individual in that situation? Because he works for you. He's in charge of your roster and your personnel. Why would you not want to say, hey, man, doing all right? Let's get you some help. Let's take some time away from the team. Let's get you some help. Let's get you the time that you need. That's what a lot of employers do. Chris Russell's been saying this for months. He's been saying that there has been infighting and there has been jealousy. And that Scott's been on his way out. I didn't want to believe it. But I'll raise my hand to it and I'll admit, Chris Russell's been saying this for months. He's been saying that Scott McGloin's been on his way out. And at the time, I would have slapped him across the face and called him a fool because it made no damn sense to me whatsoever as to why or how any of this would be true. And look where we are. I feel tired. I feel like I just got beat up. And my body is in pain and is trying to recover and I need rest. This is horrible. Albert Beer says that this situation has more to do with decision-making power. I believe that. With the rumors that I've been hearing about our general manager and our president and the jealousy that has gone on from Bruce Allen in regards to Scott McGloin, I believe that this has been more about a decision-making grabbing and the power that lies therein. Mike Weiss comes out and says, if you anonymously leaked out an employee's alleged problems with alcohol to save face amid his firing, you are a gutless, soulless human necktie. I agree with him. If we're taking a look at Scott McLuhan's track record where alcoholism is concerned, I'm also taking a look at the track record of this organization. The track record of this organization to come out with this situation right before free agency, actually right after free agency started, to silence your general manager at the time in which you did it, the leaks that were coming out, these are all things that we've been seeing in Ashburn for years. I'm not buying that Scott McLuhan has gone on a drunken, fueled rampage and is back to relapsing and we have to get rid of him for control issues. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. We go back to talk about those moments in time. Those moments in time when things go south. When you take a look back and say, where did this all start? Where's the starting point? The starting point for all of this was when Daniel Snyder became the owner of this football team. He is 100% responsible for absolutely everything that's going on. I don't care how much you want to believe that he has been removed of the situation and has tried to put people in charge and become more absent in regards to the comings and goings of personnel on this team, and he just wants to win. I don't buy that at all. This is upper-level management issues that is trickling down and destroying everything in its path. And the person that sits at the top is Daniel Snyder. And this isn't the first time something like this has happened. I go back to the Marty Schottenheimer era. I also go back to the Norv Turner era. And there are some things that are going on right now that make too much sense to me. That ring true. They ring that memory bell. Oh my God, this sounds familiar. We've done this a lot. We've done this before. I'm sorry, but how many times do you have to puke to realize you understand the taste of puke? We've been tasting puke for 20 years. This is something that's not new to us Skins fans. The common denominator is the problem, and the common denominator is the owner. We are not going to win a Super Bowl in Washington, D.C. as long as Daniel Snyder is the owner of this fucking team. It's not going to happen. I have always been an apologist when it's come to this football team. I've always been one of the biggest apologists because at the end of the day, the crap that goes on that doesn't make any sense was the stuff that I was willing to excuse because who wants to run an organization that doesn't make sense? It's illogical. Why would you want to get into the business of running a business so that you can run it into the ground willfully? So a lot of these rumors and a lot of these accusations that go on in the back of your mind, like when Chris Russell tells me that there's infighting amongst upper-level management and that Scott McLuhan's on his way out the door, I think to myself, what in the world is going on? There's no way that's true. How can that possibly be true when you've got one of the better talent evaluators that this organization has ever seen since Jack Kent Cook's been put in the damn ground? Why would you possibly want to let the guy go? If you've got problems with him, the man you settle it, but the guy can do his damn job. He's got a track record. He's got Super Bowl rings to prove that he can do this. And you want to let him go because you're jealous of the people that he's picking? We've got a corner that is so full of himself he gets pissed off when we sign Josh Norman, and then during a game he storms off in the locker room and decides he's going to be a bitch and not come back out and play. Our general manager, who's the people person, the players person, goes in that locker room and talks that guy into coming back out because that's part of his job. But what does our president do? Reprimands our general manager because it makes sense to. That's what winners do. Bruce Allen, you are a disgrace to your father. You're a disgrace to your father. Your father was a legend in this organization. Your father was a leader of men. Your father led the charge of this Washington Redskins organization against countless enemies, individuals on other teams, and the Dallas Cowboys who had nothing but Pro Bowlers on that football team, and led the charge of our men to go out there and win games against those individuals. Inspired them with his words, inspired them with his ability to talk those individuals into going out there and climbing and scaling mountains, conquering odds. And you are anything but that. You are a spineless, squirreless son of a bitch. And I don't know where did he go wrong with you? Where did that go wrong? I think what you need to do is for another season, I think you need to go put on your track shorts. I need to go grab your cleats and your sweatshirt and a rag and tuck it into your pants and go run footballs back out on that football field like you did when you were 10. And kind of remind yourself about the good old days. I don't give a damn about the gold pants. I don't give a damn about the burgundy tops like your old man used to have when he was here in Washington. I don't give a damn about that. You're a disgrace to your dad. You're a disgrace to that whole organization and what they represented them, because that's not what you're exuding now. You are exuding the exact opposite. You are exuding jealousy. You are exuding all of the things you can attribute to a losing organization you exude. And Dan Snyder, for you to sit back on your ass and to watch this thing happen, and I'm assuming you're watching and you're not behind it all, shame on you too. You need to go back making millions at whatever it was that you were doing before. That's what you excel at. That's what you're good at. Because you know nothing about the sport of football. Whatever it is that you're seeing on TV is not what's happening out on that football field. And if you haven't figured that out by now, you are never going to get it. You are never going to understand. And I don't give a good goddamn who it is you're friends with. I don't care what former players are ringing your doorbell every weekend and calling you friend. You still don't get it. When you suit up and put on those pads and when you put on that helmet and you go out there and you play across the line of an individual that wants to kick your ass and you can't run from anybody, you have no idea what it's like to play under that kind of pressure. You have no idea what it's like to take that kind of abuse and to sit there in your squanty little office with your squanty little self and clap your hands and cheer and pretend like you know what the hell you're doing and what the hell it is you're talking about. You ain't fooling anybody. And I'm sorry, but your actions and your moves the last 20 years prove to me that you are probably the most retarded entrepreneur I've ever seen in my life. How did you get rich? How the hell did you get rich? You can't run a football franchise. You are got to be the dumbest person. I haven't seen anybody this retarded since Al Davis, and he had dementia. He could run a team better than you. God knows he had a lot more respect than you, and the guy was a former player. I don't even know what direction to take with this channel. Because I bleed this organization. I live it and I breathe it, and I've done it for 30 years. And I remember this organization when we were touting Super Bowl trophies over our heads on national television. I remember those days. I remember what it was like. I remember what our organization stood for. I remember the fight that Doug Williams put against the Denver Broncos in California, in Pasadena, California, to win a Super Bowl game that we weren't supposed to win, for an organization that stood behind that individual, because there was no infighting. Not like this. There was no anonymous official sources leaking stuff. There wasn't any of that stuff that was going on. There was a belief in the general manager. There was a belief in the head office. There was a belief all the way down to the head coach and the players in the football team that were synchronized and playing as one. I mean, did they get along all the time? Probably not. Probably not, because there were egos back then too. But this is a daycare worker giving all of her kids butcher knives and then leaving for an hour. That's what this is. This is the goddamn bloodbath. This is going to get worse. I don't care who we sign. I don't care who we sign. It does not matter. The only thing that matters to me in signings is going to be the signings on. It's going to be the signings on defense, and I don't even trust that. Given our track record with Doug Williams and Bruce Allen and their ability to evaluate talent and to be able to set up a draft board and execute a draft, gives me no hope and no confidence whatsoever If you want to talk about being jealous of Scott McLuhan, that's great. But if you want to fire the guy and let him go because you're too much of a retard to understand that you got to put your ego aside and let the guy that knows what he's doing do his job, then man, what are we doing? Why are we even doing this? Why are we even doing this? I'm going to call it right now. Bruce Allen is not a talent evaluator. He is not going to be successful at anybody that he picks. Anybody. He's not going to pay talent for what talent does on the football field because he's a penny pincher. So he's going to be looking for high-priced talent at a low cost. Right back to marginal team success coupled with seasons on both sides where we are an abysmal failure. Abysmal failure, marginal success, abysmal failure. Where does one go? Guys, I had hope, man. I'd lost a little bit of hope when Griffin left, but then when Gruden came in and he was working with with our quarterback, he was working with Kirk Cousins, and all of a sudden he came out the last couple of years, and it's like, my God, we've got something here. All we got to do now is sign. I was hopeful. I mean, we front-loaded this draft, this 2017 draft. We front-loaded it with all the draft picks from last year. We traded down. We got draft picks for 2017 was going to be our season, man. Extra draft picks. We were gonna revamp this. We were gonna revamp this defense. There were so many things I was looking forward to us doing. We were going to be able to hopefully sign our quarterback to a long-term contract, and if that was going to happen with all these extra draft picks, I said it then. We've got to extend our head coach. We've got to extend our general manager because that is the recipe for success. We do not have that now. Our head coach just got done signing an extension for 3 years. I don't know why. I don't get it. Because our general manager is now gone. He's fired. We don't have a general manager. We're probably not going to get another one. Who the hell is going to want to come here and be a general manager? Not when they're under the greasy, sticky, stupid thumb of our president, Bruce Allen. And now our quarterback is going to be gone. Even if he signs this franchise tag, he's not coming back after that. He's not going to be here for the 2018 season. If you didn't believe me, this team would be stupid to sign him after a franchise tag in 2017, then you are really, really, really going to have to understand there's no way we're going to sign Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal after the 2017 season going into 2018. There's no way. It's not going to happen. Kirk Cousins has been asking for a trade. He doesn't even want to play here. Doesn't want to be here. He's not coming back. We've treated him like crap. He's going to go out there and be a good soldier. He's going to go out there and toe the company line until the end of 2017, and then he's going to give his double deuces, and he's going to go somewhere else. And I think at this point he doesn't even care where that's going to be. And frankly, I don't blame him. I would play for Jacksonville. Hell, just to throw double deuces up at this organization, I'd sign for $19 million. Give me a 3-year. The deal that I put on the Washington Redskins table in 2017, that's what I'm giving the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2018. I'm going to give you the same deal. You want me for $19 million in incentives? Take me. I don't care. I thought I was going to be screwing other NFL quarterbacks over by not signing what was due me because I wanted all those individuals to get paid too. To hell with it. I'm not even interested in that anymore. All I want is out of D.C. I want out from under Jay Gruden. I want out from under Bruce Allen. I want out from under our owner, Daniel Snyder. Just get me the hell out. Want me to pay quarterback for 19? Sure. Okay. Okay. All right. We will not win a Super Bowl under Daniel Snyder as owner of this football franchise. There's no way in hell that a successful franchise owner allows something like this to happen. There's no way. I don't understand how you can be so socially retarded when it comes to your organization being able to handle something like this. Why would you want to lie? Why would you want to do any of this stuff? This is like somebody needs to be categorizing this and just recording all of this, writing a book on a timeline. These are all the things that a general manager should never do. These are all things that an owner should never do. And if you want to have a successful franchise as an owner or a general manager or a president, then you read the book in chronological order of the Washington Redskins since Daniel Snyder took over this football team, and you follow it to a T, and you're probably going to be marginally successful. If you want a kid out of a certain college that you think is awesome and you can't wait to pick him up, and all of a sudden people in your organization are telling you, no, the kid can't play, guess what? You don't draft him. You might be marginally successful. You don't look at your opposition and your rival and you look at them with envy and decide you want to take a bunch of their players and a bunch of their personnel and put them on their team because you want to be successful like them. Don't do that thing. You're probably going to be marginally successful. You don't want to take a look at players that are on the back end of 30 that are looking at making a last payday and bringing them over here so that they can boost your team. You want to go after younger players, players that you can develop, players that you can sign at a marginal level unless you absolutely need them. But you don't go out there playing free agency, free fantasy football with free agency, sign a bunch of has-beens to high-end contracts. They ain't going out to a hill of shit in China. You might actually have a successful franchise. You don't go out hiring player personnel and talent evaluators who are good at their job and then firing them after a couple years because you're jealous of the moves they are making and the rapport they have with the players. You might actually have a marginally successful franchise. If you're not a fan of this team, I hope you're following this team and I hope you're laughing. Because that's what we are. We are a laughing stock. There's nobody in the NFL that's worse than us right now. And I beg to differ that I don't think there's been an NFL franchise out of all the other 31 teams in the NFL. Has there been anybody worse in 20 years than us? I don't think so. I don't think so. And by worse than us, I'm not necessarily counting wins and losses here. I'm not counting wins and losses. I'm just talking about professionalism. I am talking about a winning attitude. I am talking about trying to put together something that's going to make you successful in the NFL. The Jacksonville Jaguars haven't exactly been good at that, but they've maintained a certain degree of modicum that I envy at this point. The same thing can be said about the Cleveland Browns. They're turning things around over there in Cleveland. You take a look at the Rams. You take a look at the Raiders. The Raiders were in the playoffs last year. I mean, I don't know what direction to take this channel. Does this become an informative channel? And I just come on here and report to you what's new? And I don't really give my opinion anymore because I don't have an opinion anymore, because as long as Daniel Snyder is sitting on the top of the Game of Thrones, that this organization is going to go to shit. He is the little Lannister boy trying to run a kingdom. If you get my Game of Thrones reference. It's all going to burn. And don't worry about winter is coming. Winter's here. Winter hit us in the face and it went right up our ass. It just happened just a little bit ago with the firing of one of the better talent evaluators that I ever recall having in charge as a GM on this football team. And I'm sorry, but god damn it, Tony... Charlie Casserly, I don't even listen to what it is you say anymore. I don't listen to what it is you say anymore. I don't listen to you. If I want information on what it is like to be a general manager or a person in management, then I might pay attention to what it is that you say, because that is where your expertise is at. But you are not a talent evaluator. You have been wrong more times, and it drives me nuts. Were you this horrible when you were in upper level management for us, were you general manager for us? Were you this bad? Because, dude, you suck. You're horrible. Just stick to what you know. What it's like to come in as an executive for an NFL franchise and just discuss those things here and here. Just discuss that. Don't discuss player evaluation. Don't discuss player performance and injury. You don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. I lost a lot of respect for Chris Cooley. I'm not even listening to 980 anymore right now. I will listen to 980 when it comes to game film evaluation. That's the only time that I'm choosing right now to go back to 980 to listen to what it is that those guys have to say on that show. I lost a lot of respect for them. And you know what it is that pisses me off about 980? And what it is that pisses me off about, I don't even know what his co-host's name is, not even worth necessarily remembering what his name is, but when those guys get to talking, when Chris Cooley gets to talking, and you cannot make an allegation and then come back and say, but that wasn't what I said. Just because you were right does not necessarily mean that you were wrong. And what you necessarily say before and that you try to squirrel your way out of before doesn't necessarily make you right or wrong either. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you run into a gym and yell fire, you could be just as culpable. You could be culpable if it's not true. There are ramifications for individuals that do that. You don't get to make an allegation and hint towards something and then back out at the last minute and say that wasn't what I said. That is BS. That is some lowball 8th grade shit. Okay, I want to. Maybe there's a possibility that Scott McCloughan might be under the influence of some substance abuse issues. I'm not saying that that's what's going on. I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but just think about it for a second. What if that was a possibility? And then we got callers coming in a week later saying, you guys accused him of drinking. I didn't say he was drinking. I never said he was drinking. I never accused him of drinking. But no, you let out the allegation, dude. You implied it. You stuck it in the listener's head, and of course that's what they're going to think. It's chop shop radio, man. These are stupid tactics you guys are running. And think about the timing of that show. Think of the timing when that started to come out. These guys are swearing on their children that they're not influenced by the Redskins organization and Dan Snyder. I'm sorry. I'm going to call BS on that. Gonna call BS on that. The timing is just a little too, it fits just a little too much into the timeline of the shenanigans of the Washington Redskins. It just does. And it's Chris Cooley. I'm sorry, but you don't get to come out and imply towards allegation and then come out on the other end of that and say, I never accused him, I never said anything like that. Yeah, you kind of did. You kind of did. They were the first ones to spin this alcoholism thing. And if you listen to these guys, these beat writers who spend time with the team just as much as Chris Cooley, they don't have any necessarily influence when it comes to that owner, they'll tell you something a little bit different. They'll say, look, the alcoholism, the relapse story has been waiting to spin for a while. They've been waiting on this one. They can't wait to get Scott out of here. I've been waiting for Scott's agent to say something, and I've been waiting for Scott's wife to say something. I haven't really seen anything on Twitter, and both of them have done a fairly decent job of saying some things, and I'm willing to think that there's more behind that. I don't necessarily believe that Scott McCloughan was sent home earlier in the season. I don't think he was officially sent home. I think they're saying that now. I think they're implying that now. I don't even necessarily think it's true, which means we are fans and apologists of one of the most crooked, shady, just bent organizations on the planet. Bent! This is a ship of thieves, man. Stabbing each other in the back. This is a ship of thieves. I can't be more disgraced and disgusted. I've never been this disgusted in my life. Ever. And I've been one of the biggest Redskin apologists that you'll ever meet. Not today. Not today. Today I am ashamed to be a fan of this football team. This team has disgraced me as a human being, as a fan of this sport called football. This is not football. This is not what football is. This is not what football means. This is not indicative of an organization that's been around for 80 years, that has prided itself on honor and respect. It's not. Daniel Snyder hasn't learned those. He hasn't learned those concepts. He doesn't understand what they mean. As a shrewd businessman that steps and walks on other individuals to get where it is that he needs to go, that That is the narrative that he wants these individuals to understand. That's the ship he's trying to right. That is what he stands for. You really want to be a part of this? Think about it. Do you really want to be a part of this? The problem is not the problem's not our president. You can replace Bruce Allen with Pee Wee Herman. It's not going to matter. The problem's at the very, very tippy top. It starts with one man. And it's the one man we can't replace. It's the one man we can't get rid of. It's the one man that's going to define this organization for the next 20 years like he has defined the last 20 years. There will be no Super Bowl rings, ladies and gentlemen. There will be no Super Bowl trophies. You guys have a good night.